Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies too similar to His. This is known as Sarupya Mukti. Although Shishupal, Dantravark and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Please repeat, by devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to His. This is known as Sarupya Mukti. Although Shishupala, Dantravarka and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Jai Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Gaur Ki Jai. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that the devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of a particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. I'll read that again because it's so important. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of a particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Tvaktva Deham Purnat Janma Naitimam Eti. After giving up one's body, a devotee does not again receive a material body, but goes back to Godhead and receives a spiritual body resembling those of the Lord's eternal associates whose activities he followed. However, the devotee likes to serve the Lord. Let me read that again. However, the devotee likes to serve the Lord. He may constantly think of the Lord's associates, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the Lord's father and mother, His servants and trees, lands, animals, plants, and water, all in the Lord's abode. Because of always constantly thinking of these features, one acquires a transcendental position. Kings like Shishupala, Dantravarka, Kamsa, Pondraka, Narakeshu, and Shalva were all similarly delivered. This is confirmed by Madhvacharya. Pondrake Narakai Chaiva Salve Kamse Charukmini Avistastu Harer Bhaktas Tad Bhaktya Harim Apire. Pondraka, Narakasura, Salva, and Kamsa were all inimical towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because all these kings constantly thought of Him, they achieved the same liberation, Sarupya Mukti. The Jnana Bhakta, the devotee who follows the path of Jnana, also attains the same destination. If the enemies of the Lord achieve salvation by constantly thinking about the Lord, what is to be said of pure devotees who always engage in the Lord's service and who think of nothing but the Lord in every activity? So, there are two words in Sanskrit, Anuskaran, Anusaran. Anuskaran is what we don't want. That is called imitation. When one tries to imitate a great devotee or an eternal associate of the Lord, that is called artificial and doesn't get anywhere in one's devotional life. One simply imitates their activities. But there's another word called Anusharan. That means to follow in the footsteps. Which means to develop an attachment for an associate of the Lord and then serve the Lord in the same mood that person is serving the Lord. And by constantly thinking of the Lord and serving the eternal associate of the Lord, one develops what we say pure devotional activity. In the sense that one is developing an internal mood, at the same time one is executing devotional service. If our internal mood is sense gratification, we'll get nowhere. If we're externally doing our devotional service but internally thinking of sense gratification, we get nowhere, basically. And Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. That is called a pretender, one who's making show of devotional service externally, but thinking, how can I enjoy my senses? And therefore the internal mood is more important than the external activity, because that's what Krishna sees, really. We get some benefit for doing the right activity, but very little because the mood is not correct. The mood is to render devotional service favorably to the Lord, but in the mood of following in those who have achieved perfection. So it's interesting, the first line, which is a long line, Prabhupada uses six lines to say this first sentence, because it's such a important thing, that one cultivates internally a mood. Now, for one who is very neophyte in devotional service, one who is beginning, it's practically impossible for them to do that. So they just chant Hare Krishna and engage in devotional service. But as one goes on in devotional service and starts to become steady, nishta, in one's execution of devotional service, one becomes attached to serving the Lord in a certain way, or becomes attached to the associates of the Lord who are serving in that way, either the gopis, the cowherd boys, Krishna's parents, Krishna's elders who also are in Vatsalya Ras, like that. And then one can cultivate that inner mood, because that's really what it's all about. No one can understand, just like those who are on the pure devotional platform, they may do any kind of service, but internally they're cultivating a specific mood to serve the Lord. Bhima, we know Bhima, the great powerful fighter, could take on 10,000 soldiers at a time and defeat them in fight. He was so powerful. With a club, he could destroy so many soldiers. And his eating habits were, from an external point of view, quite strange. I guess that's not the word. He ate a lot. He would eat so much. And he had another name, which he acquired because of his eating, called Vikradar, one who has the belly of a wolf. He had such high fire of the digestion that if he didn't eat so much, his stomach would burn up. Imagine what kind of fire that is. Wow. Sometimes we get hungry and we feel, hunger pains. That's a little flame burning there. But imagine if it's so hot that you could actually disintegrate. Bhima was like that. So people externally would see him, and sometimes they criticized. So one time, when someone said to Krishna, look at this, he's a great devotee, but look how much he eats so much. Krishna decided to reveal something, so he did to that person who was also a devotee, and he showed Bhima's internal mood, which was completely different than his external mood as a fighter. Internally, in his heart, he was offering flowers to Krishna's lotus feet in very sweet devotional mood. Externally, you see this big, powerful soldier who is a fighter and eats a lot. But internally, he's a sweet, whatever his mood is. Maybe it's a gopi, maybe it's a cowherd boy, something wonderful. Maybe it's something in Vaikuntha. But in any case, he was offering beautiful flowers. And that was his constant mood in his heart. So we learn from great souls what is the way of devotional service. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he explains that by chanting the holy names of the Lord in the Shikshastakam prayers in the first verse, he describes one of the benefits, or one of the, what we say, main benefits of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And he says, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipudam Purnam Rita Swardanam. This Pratipudam Purnam Rita Swardanam is very, very much connected to this verse here. That at every step of one's devotional service, one is understanding new relationships between the soul and Krishna. Until stage perfection is reached. Until one's internal swarup is revealed. Who are you in the spiritual world? We look at our bodies and sometimes we start to think similar about who we are. But it may be completely different. You know, a person in a woman's body may be a cowherd boy. And a person in a man's body, just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all his associates practically were gopis. So externally, the body is a vehicle to reveal one's internal mood through the process of devotional service like that. So this point that Lord Chaitanya is making, Pratipudam Purnam Rita Swardanam, that through chanting the holy names of the Lord and cultivating a mood of devotional service, Krishna reveals through the spiritual master, not outside of the spiritual master, or not somehow through one's own mental thoughts, one's internal mood. In 1970, I think it was, in the ISKCON movement, there was a club that formed in California of all places, of course. All deviations start in California. Those of you who know about California. Anyway, if you like sense gratification, live in California. It's the best place for sense gratification. At least in the United States, anyway. So there was this group of about 50 devotees who formed this club called the Gopi Bhava Club. And they were acting and dressing up as gopis. And there was one sannyasi who was dressed up as a peacock. I won't mention his name, but maybe he was, but Prabhupada didn't think it was such a good idea. And so many others. And they were meeting regularly, discussing these, what we say, most intimate leelas of Radha and Krishna and the gopis in Vrindavan, and performing external activities in the way of dress. You can hear it on one tape when Tamal Krishna Goswami points this out to Srila Prabhupada that this is going on. And Prabhupada immediately says, "Stop it. This is artificial." You know, he said it's true that our internal moods are what we say, or our natures. The word is siddhade. Your internal body is something of the spiritual world. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati did many revolutionary things, and one thing he did was that prior to his taking the position within the Parampara, there was initiation into what is called Siddha Pranali. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur followed that. And he also taught it, that there is, at one point in your devotional service, excuse me, you go to another spiritual teacher who is more elevated than your guru or somebody equal to, and you get what is called your internal mood revealed. And there's initiation into 11 points of your internal mood. Who you are, what's your dress, what's your service, what's your group, if you're in the gopis, or even the cowherd boys have different groups. What's your color? Do you have different colors in the spiritual world? Who are your associates? Where do you live in this? So many things. 11 points is called Siddha Pranali initiation. And many, many devotees, not a few, left Prabhupada because Prabhupada didn't follow this process, because he followed his spiritual master who stopped it. Because people were pretentiously and surreptitiously and artificially acting as this. And Bhaktisiddhanta smashed it, really. Because it was strong at that time, because there was a lot of asampradayas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur followed it, and you can read it. You can read it in his biography. He tells you who he is, and he tells you all his 11 points. It's in that one biography by Sukhavak. And called Hindu Meets Modernity. You've seen that book? In there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is revealed in all his internal moods. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, although coming in the line of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, saw that this was causing so many, many, many deviations. It's like Prabhupada did certain things that were also, what we say, different. Just like if something is right, but you use it in the wrong way, and then it takes on a wrong connotation, then to destroy that wrong connotation, you might eliminate the whole thing, even though the thing is right. You know what the point I'm saying? If something is good, but it's being used in a bad way, you might throw out the whole thing, because to teach the good aspect is so far impossible, because people can't understand it. I'll give you an example. When devotees were traveling to Vrindavan, they went to Radhakund. And so this was the first time Prabhupada brought his Western disciples to Radhakund. So there it was, the most holiest place on this planet, and in the universe actually, Sri Radhakund. So the devotees, when they saw Radhakund, they went in and they started swimming around and splashing. And Prabhupada became like Nrsingadev. He was really upset. And he said, stop it. And then he said, from now on, we want to bathe in Radhakund. We go to the banks and we take 3 drops of water, we put it over our head, and that is considered bathing in Radhakund. So it's authorized to bathe in Radhakund. No question about it. Great souls go in it. But when Prabhupada saw how it was being misused, he stopped the whole thing and said, just take 3 drops. So this Siddha Pranali initiation is part of the bona fide Vaishnava culture. You learn who you are in the spiritual world. But when they asked Prabhupada, well, this was done by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it's done by the previous acharyas even before Bhaktivinoda Thakur to give initiation in one's eternal relationship to Krishna. How can we understand it now? Prabhupada gave the answer. He said, when you are ready to understand it, the spiritual master will come personally and reveal it. In other words, Krishna, the spiritual master, is also sitting within the heart, and he will reveal that when one has reached that stage of perfection. But if you reveal your internal mood to anybody, you lose it or it goes down. You can't talk about it. It happens. A lot of times, sometimes people understand what is their eternal mood, and then they start speaking about it. And what happens? You lose it. One can speak in confidence to a great soul to confirm it, but one should not make it public. It's like when Prabhupada was asked, well, who are you in the spiritual world? This was asked twice by Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Prabhupada. The first time he said, that you do not require. And then he walked on. That was by Vishaka Mataji, the wife of Yadavar. She asked him on one morning walk, who are you in the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, that you do not require. The second time he was asked the same question, Prabhupada got these questions, who are you in the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, if I told you, you would faint. Because Prabhupada knew who he was, but he never revealed it. Although he did give indications in some of his lectures about his internal mood through symptoms, he never actually said it directly like that. So, but one has to confirm it if one is actually developing the right internal mood. Therefore, one should go to one's spiritual master for confirmation like that. And if the spiritual master is not available or not still present on the planet, then one should go to someone who is equal to their spiritual master. And also like that. I remember I was giving a series of lectures in America, and one very nice young Indian lady was coming. And then I would ask for questions after the talk. It was a simple home program. People were coming. So this lady said, Prabhupada comes to me in my dreams all the time and he talks to me. This was the question. It wasn't a question. It was her revelation. I said, that's very nice. Thank you very much. Any other questions? And then, but again, at another event, she again said the same thing. And this time I spent a little time with her. And I said, that's very nice, but, you keep it to yourself. And then later I told her on the side, don't talk about these things, because you should confirm it but don't make it public, because it sounds pretentious. It sounds like you're trying to call attention to yourself as being a great devotee because you're getting some special mercy. So she listened, but I can tell she didn't hear what I said. There's a way of listening but not hearing. You know that? Sometimes we do that. The ears are there, but nothing goes in. Like it goes in, but nothing comes out the other side. It's called tape recorder hearing. It has to go in there and it has to create some thought of what is being said, and then that's really hearing. When you're actually thinking of what's being said, that's called hearing. So, one day I was traveling from Bombay to London, and I met the same lady in the airport, and she was also traveling. And she said, I got to speak to you, Maharaj. I really got to speak to you. I said, oh, it's nice to see you again. She said, yeah. You were right. You said that I shouldn't speak about my dreams with Prabhupada, and I kept doing it, and then Prabhupada stopped coming in my dreams. Prabhupada was coming in her dreams, there was no question about that. And she was getting some special mercy. I could see she was kind of a very devotional person. But because she made it public, it was taken away like that. So we cultivate the inner mood. How do we do that? How do we know which mood we should cultivate? One can get advice from the spiritual master, but if one is attracted to an eternal associate of the Lord, one may offer prayers to that eternal associate and pray to serve that eternal associate in the same mood that they're serving. Not that we imitate them, but we follow in their mood of devotional service like that. So, how powerful devotional service is. Here it mentions that when one receives perfection, one goes back to the spiritual world and receives the same body as Krishna, the same transcendental form. Here it's mentioned, it's called Sarupya Mukti, a liberation where one looks exactly like Krishna, but two things are there that are not there, that are there in Krishna that we don't have. One is the Kaustubha Mani, the jewel that Krishna has, and also his curl on the chest. It's called Lakshmi, is there? Yeah, it's Srivatsa. Yeah, thank you, Srivatsa. So that is unique. But a devotee also has the same can get the same transcendental form as the Lord. How powerful devotional service here. Prabhupada's making that verse after verse to show even these demons who are inimical to Krishna, fought against Krishna, receive such high, what we say, positions. Shalva, Dantravarga, Shishupal, even Kamsa, because they were constantly thinking of the Lord in a negative way, still they got the benefit. If you think of something negatively, you also get negative. You get, what we say, attracted to that energy in the same way. This is a little bit away from the subject, but I thought I'd make a point of this. Sometimes devotees like, when negative thoughts come in your mind or something is not devotional, you try to analyze it, or you try to, what we say, just look at it in a very not artificial, but a way of, oh, this is bad. If you do that, you pull that energy towards you, the same negativity. Any negativity, this is very important in spiritual life, any negativity that comes in your mind, immediately, don't even think about kicking it out, immediately kick it out. Then you'll always be in the best position. If we think bad of another devotee, kick it out. If we think in a lusty way, kick it out. Anything that comes in your mind, push it out and replace it with something spiritual. The holy name, Krishna's form, something. Because any thoughts, either negative or that's the power of the mind. The mind's so strong that even negativity becomes absorbed. Just like there's a class of people in the world who are called do-gooders. They want to rid the world of evil, and they seek out evil to destroy it in different ways, but they also absorb some of that evil that they're trying to destroy because they're in association with that energy. So, unless you are a pure soul, then it's a different. But even purity can be diluted by what we say wrong activity. Jai Sri Radha Gokulananda Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ji Ki Jai, Gorditai Ki Jai. And Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain how wonderful devotional service is. What to speak of the devotees who are thinking of Krishna in a favorable way and serving Krishna favorable. These persons who serve Krishna in an unfavorable way simply got the mercy. There's that story. I used to hear this story all the time when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement about how one rat, somehow a rat or a mouse, got onto the altar one time, and there was a ghee lamp burning on the altar. So the rat was on the altar, and his tail caught on fire for the ghee lamp. So he was like running all over the place, and then he was waving his tail. Therefore he was offering arti by offering a fiery tail to the Lord. And it says, and this is what they say, but it's interesting, they say he got liberation, the rat, because he offered arti with his fiery tail. How merciful is Krishna, huh? How powerful devotional service. All we have to do is emphasize the positive, that's all. Just stay away from the negative. Positive is so powerful. Even once chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, once, not the mantra, one name, you can become fully purified of all sinful activities committed for millions of lifetimes. Once pure chanting. Ajamil. Look at his life. It was full of sinful activities. He did everything. And he was 88 years old. And now he was about to die. But somehow or other, in his final moments, he called out to his son, Narayan. But because he remembered Krishna when he called out Narayan, he got purified. Just once. Of course, that's not an excuse to, have a life of sin or material activity, and then at the end, he didn't do that. He wasn't intentionally trying to do that. That's the seventh offense of the holy name, to intentionally sin and then try to repent. But the power of devotional service is so strong, so powerful, that once chanting the holy names even purely, or what we say, free from all other motivations, helplessly, that's the mood. One chants helplessly once, can destroy practically. You can come to the stage of namabhas. Namabhas means that there's no more offenses. The pure love has not developed, but namabhas stage is the stage that's described by the acharyas as dawn. If you have the day, you have day, night, dawn, and dusk. Namabhas is dawn. The sun is not risen, but still there is some light. That is dawn. Dawn means the sun is coming up, but it's not visible. When the sun comes up, that's pure love. When it's dark out, that's the offensive stage. When there's the marginal dawn stage, that is namabhas. Just once, chanting purely the holy name, one can come to that stage of namabhas. And as Srila Haridas Thakur says, namabhas gets you liberation, gets you out of the material world. Powerful. So this is the power of devotional service. It's very powerful, extremely powerful. That's why Prabhupada, he would make that one statement: if I have one pure devotee, that's all I ask for. If I can make one, the whole world can change. Just one. Of course, he said, I have many pure devotees. And he qualified that. He said, all my devotees are pure, because they've given their life to devotional service. But Prabhupada would quote that verse by Chanakya Pandita. One moon is better than millions and millions of stars, because that's the power of devotional service. The whole world can be purified by one pure devotee. So here we hear about the power of devotional service. So one should chant the holy names of the Lord and cultivate that internal mood of following in the footsteps, and that's recommended here. Prabhupada quotes that verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Taktva deham purna janmani naiti mam eti surjina. By cultivating that mood, one is eligible to go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this life, and never to come to this material world again. So the examples of these demons who obtain such high levels of liberation show that anything in connection of the Lord is what we say purifying. Purifying. So what to speak of the process of devotional service when it's executed favorably. Okay, any questions? Yes, Prabhu. Is it difficult? It can happen the first day you join the Hare Krishna movement. In fact, it may happen then, and then after that you go down. What does that mean? How long did it? It's not a matter of length. It's just a matter of situation. Where, if one is in, just like sometimes we find ourselves in a somewhat helpless condition. So in a helpless condition, we become sincere, right? Then the heart starts to become really, really serious. So when you find yourself in that condition, naturally you call out to Krishna in pure love. Chant the holy names. That is namabhas. But then again, what you do after that may also bring back the darkness. Don't commit any offenses. That's why sometimes, this is interesting statement. It's kind of controversial, where some people say, when I first joined Hare Krishna, it was so nice, but now it's really tough. I used to be a nice person when I first was so blissful, everything was nice. Now it's really hard. Well, what is, when you first come in, everything looks like Vaikuntha, right? The devotees look like they come from the spiritual world. The prasadam is so great. The altar is just like fabulously beautiful. Everything is just dazzling. And you just can't wait to do more and more things and learn more and more. And you stay around for a while. And then you start seeing faults and mistakes and this and that. And then your consciousness changes. So sometimes a person who comes in new to devotional service is getting ecstatic symptoms. It's not like Krishna's making some special arrangement for that person. It's actually they're getting the happiness of Krishna consciousness. But we have to be careful not to fall into negative activity or negative thought. That's what ruins everything. Always stay in the proper consciousness. Consciousness of service, the consciousness of submission, and the consciousness really of appreciation. That's the real consciousness. If we always have appreciation for devotional service, for the devotees, for anything, and then we'll always be in the best position to appreciate. And that appreciation is not artificial, because it's mercy. We're appreciating the mercy. We're appreciating the opportunity that's been given to us. And so, namabhas can happen right at the first day, or may never happen. But then again, you can, just like it says, if you, like sometimes at the end of the chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, one who reads this narration of Krishna with Rukmini, never takes birth again in the material world, right? So, at that time, you're okay. Now what you do after that, so don't put anything back on again. Anything negative back on. That's the problem. So we have to stay in that consciousness, or keep that consciousness developed like that. And we have control over our thoughts. At least we do to some degree. We may not be able to control, we can't control anything, but at least we can control about what we think. That we have to be very diligent. Never let the mind take you to a place where you don't want to be. Either negatively or just mundanely, either one. So it can happen immediately.